I'm Sam Legasic.
And I'm Dreadful Dan Gallagher. And we're two old buddies that have lived our life at the edge of the mainstream.
So come join us where things are a little odd. This is the
You've got to believe.
It's alive! It's loose!
This earth of yours will be reduced to a burned-out cinder.
Hi everyone, I'm Dreadful Dan G, and welcome to Oddcast with my co-host.
Me! It's me!
It's
Hello.
Sam.
Hi, I'm Sam.
How you
Question,
doing?
am I Sam? Answer, yes.
Well, that's good to know.
How are you?
I'm lovely.
You alright?
Yeah, always. Now we're back in the saddle, the odd saddle, and primed to talk about Devo's debut album from 1978. It's Q, Are We Not Men? A, We Are Devo. So this album, Sam, any thoughts initially? Any thoughts on the album? Any thoughts broadly on Devo?
I ruddy love Devo. The first time I heard of this band was when I was in a band with my friend Tarek, and he opened up this world of Devo, which I was massively not aware of. I think I'd heard of them because being into Nirvana, Kurt had said that he liked them.
Yeah.
And obviously there was Turnaround on Incesticide.
Yeah, I was about to say you're wrong because we definitely knew about them before then through reading Nirvana books.
Yeah, but I hadn't actually bothered to go out and listen properly to the stuff. I don't know, or maybe you had, but in my head it was oh, that's good. Yeah, because in my head it was with Tarek, and specifically this album, which we had it was the double one, like a compilation between this and the Freedom of Choice live album, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And yeah, we were obsessed with it. And we actually covered a few Devo songs, but one of the first songs that we did was Mongoloid.
Yes, I remember.
Which was great. So yeah, that was, and just since then, I've always loved him. And then obviously you go back and you realise that Mark Mothersbaugh, he's a composer now, and he did like the Rugrats theme and all this stuff. And he's done tons of stuff now. So he's like, gone on to become a real success in his own right.
He's a
Of course,
prolific
we saw
guy.
them live as well, didn't we, Dan?
Yeah.
Saw them live whilst they were all like still alive.
That was quite a while ago
most of us
now.
alive. Yeah.
Was that like over 10 years ago?
Shepherd's Bush Empire. Yeah. And I remember we were thinking it was really weird because we're like, there's loads of like young kids all like dressed up, and we're just like, how do they even know who Devo are? Like they've not released anything in about 20 years or whatever. But yeah, this was just before they had started working on a new album. So yeah, big fan, really. And this album specifically was something that was the kind of first proper album I heard of theirs. So it's a good one to discuss.
Yeah, and I feel the same really. I think through your listening to them is how I was then introduced to hearing their music. Until then, they were just a name and one photo in a Nirvana book, I think. So,
in their yellow suits and red hats, whatever. It's like, who the fuck are these guys?
And
yeah,
I loved it as well. This album still, sometimes I think, maybe Freedom of Choice is their best. I think they're both really, really good. It depends slightly which way your bread is buttered. This is the slightly more guitar orientated, noisier, more new wavy one. Freedom of Choice a little poppier. But great albums. And yeah, this one, maybe it's the most enduring, and maybe it's a little bit more solid across the whole track listing. It's a really consistent record. And there's really nothing else quite like it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing as well. It's like even before and since, they just have their own sound, and it's just not been like no one else has done it. It's completely unique in its own right, and I think it's it's difficult to kind of place it, and it's just weird that it just shows how unique and amazing and incredible they are as artists. The fact that there is literally no one else, or that we know of, or that is a success, or has done it as well, that does this kind of like sound, which I guess, like, how would you describe it? It's like electro synth, like weird. It's like weird electro, if that makes sense. It's like these really heightened, dramatic vocals, but like, yeah, it's still got that kind of punk, new wave aesthetic. It's all like live instruments. It's all like guitar, live drums, whatever, that kind of thing. And it's just a bit stupid and silly and juvenile, but at the same time, not.
Yeah, there's still some. I think there's a cynical bent to them, and through that, demeanor, and they've often been interpreted as being silly or novelty, but it kind of masks a serious point, I think. And Devo are a band with a lot of deep concepts, and a lot of sort of like mythology that they've built up within their own kind of like within the band. And even at this point, their first album, they'd been around for 5 years, and they built up a lot of these like strange characters and ideas. And some of that's kind of here, but it's really impenetrable, I think. It takes a lot of time. And I think that's kind of what appealed to me initially when I was first getting into them, is that they reference a lot of these things, and you think, hang on, what's that? How would you know about that? So they're one of those bands that you can kind of like, you get a little hint that there's something more. And then there's a lot to kind of like explore in their backstory.
Yeah. It's also just generally really experimental. And you get a bit of that, on this album. But yeah, as you said, this kind of feels more like a punky kind of rock, as you said, guitar-based kind of record, but still with hints of experimental stuff. And yeah, it's crazy. It's also one of those things that, like, I thought watching them live, both when we actually saw them live physically, and also if you go back and watch their old live gigs, just like is still incredible. It like works really well live in a way that you don't really think about when you listen to it. As an album.
Yeah, no, they're an amazing band at this point in terms of the live show. But we'll come to that a bit later. Guys, we're going to talk about the album. We're going to also talk about the lead up to the album, some of the music they released in 1977, their whole signing with Warner Brothers and Virgin Records, a little bit about the recording of the album. Then we're going to give you our thoughts track by track, and wrap up with some good old Nerds Corner, where we talk about some of the specific releases. So just to lay the groundwork here for people who don't know anything about the band, I'm not going to go too much into the early years, because that is a whole, like I said, 5-year era that's really distinct. But basically they were formed in 1973 in Akron, Ohio, initially as kind of like a performing arts act. Jerry, the bassist, kind of came up with the de-evolution concept with a guy called Bob Lewis. They were basically art students. And then they brought in Mark Mothersbaugh. And their first gig was kind of like as a performing arts sort of thing, called Sextet Devo, with a couple of other guys who, they only did this one performance and then they're kind of like out of the picture. But they were as much interested, I think, in, the conceptual aspect, the art aspect at this point, as they were in the music. And they came up with this idea of de-evolution, which is basically the idea that people in society is actually devolving. It's not progressing, it's getting worse. And it's all bound up with kind of the cynicism, I think, of the early 70s, coming out of the hippie era. they were there. Jerry specifically was there at the Kent State University shootings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And some of the people that died, he was friends with.
Jesus.
So he said at that point, that was when the concept really kind of got some traction with him and they started mining it seriously. And even though it's kind of, silly and Dada-esque, they were actually trying to make a serious point about modern corporate America and fascism.
Right. Yeah.
Also in that de-evolution concept, there's a lot of stuff about sex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about how man is a kind of an anomaly in the animal kingdom because of his obsession, his uncontrollable urge to have sexual acts performed. And it's all bound up with some ideas around monkeys, basically. And that's why we get a lot of monkey stuff in the lyrics. Anyway, so that's like the basis of the kind of band's concept. And like I said, over the years, they developed lots of offshoots of like a mythology around this. But
it's also like just fun. That's what I take away from it as well.
Yeah.
Just fun music for the most part as well.
Yeah, I mean, all of that serious stuff and the imagery, they then were able to present it in a way that's just quite, appealing, I think.
Mm.
Like, even if you don't know all that background, the costumes, the instrumentation, it all comes off. But when you know, like, the background of it and, like, the way they developed and evolved the sound or devolved the sound, again, all of that was meant to be part of the concept.
Yeah.
They started with so you had kind of the core lineup eventually became Mark Mothersbaugh and his brother Bob, who I think was Bob 1. Then you had Jerry and his brother Bob, who was Bob 2, and eventually they had Alan on the drums. But originally they had Jim Mothersbaugh, who was the youngest brother, and he actually built his own electronic drum kit. So initially he had this like really weird like proto synth sound. Got to think this is before punk as well.
Yeah.
So really strange stuff they were doing. But by the time we got to 1976, 1977, they had a proper drummer, slightly more conventional sound.
Yeah.
And like I said, I think there's a bit of influence of the punk scene and specifically new wave starting to play places like CBGB's.
Yeah. We've got that energy still as well. Like, it feeds into it.
And so by that point, they were actually starting to make a few waves. They made a film in 1976 called The Beginning Was the End.
Right. Don't know.
Or was it The Complete Truth, maybe, about the evolution. I can't remember which one it is. Anyway, they made this film and that got a lot of attention. And that's when they really started, they were gigging more like New York, LA. And I think the industry started circling them, specifically Neil Young and Iggy Pop.
Okay.
And Iggy Pop sent a demo tape to David Bowie.
Right.
And then David Bowie, this is like 1977 now, he even went on stage when they played, I think it was like Max's Kansas City, and like introduced them and said, I'm going to be producing their album. So Bowie got really excited and thought, this is the future of music.
Yeah.
But what happened was he had other commitments. He was really busy around this time. I think he was off filming like a movie.
Right.
So he basically palmed them off onto Brian Eno.
Right. His mate as well.
Yeah. So Eno at that point, obviously they've been working on their like, Low and Heroes and Lodger and all this.
Mm.
So that was kind of how they came from the underground to, over many years, tweaking, becoming, I suppose, a little bit more conventional and palatable, and just like networking and getting their name out there. And eventually, that was it. Coming to the prominence, like coming to the attention of Iggy Pop, Bowie, and Eno.
It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Three really influential guys.
Exactly. You're not even released an album yet.
So at that point, they had released a few singles, though. The first of which was Mongoloid. And let's hear a little bit of that. Yeah, so in 1977, they set up their own little record label called Booji Boy Records. Booji Boy. Any thoughts on Booji Boy, Sam?
Yeah, well, here's the only thing. I know you say about how they built out this world and stuff, but he is one of the most memorable parts of it. I should say that his whole character stuff, which is it's kind of Lynchian in the fact that it's all like happy America, but it's just really creepy and dark and horrible underneath.
For those who
how you
don't
describe it,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. For those who don't know, it's Mark Mothersbaugh in a weird baby mask, singing in a very high pitch. And usually doing strange things. It's like giant infants I think when they had him play, he was often in a playpen off to the side.
That's so horrible.
Yeah.
It's weird and creepy.
So they named their record label after him. And yeah, they put out Mongoloid, backed with Jocko Homo as their first single. And what an amazing, in my opinion, initial statement of their intent and sound.
Yeah. It's great. It's on the nose.
Those two songs, I think, when it came to the album, obviously they were re-recorded later for the album, but they are two of the best, two of the linchpins of their whole catalogue, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I always, I remember hearing not too long ago, a acoustic version of Jocko Homo as well. I'm thinking, this still works, even though it shouldn't as an acoustic song. Yeah, fantastic. It's one of the best Devo tracks, really.
First time I remember Jocko Homo was hearing it in probably at your place and just being absolutely shocked. There aren't that many times in your life where you really hear a new sound, that's completely alien to anything you've heard before.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, it's just got nothing that I'm used to hearing in a song. The way it plays around with, there's something really unappealing about it.
Yeah.
And they used to play these really long, they say 15-minute versions of it just to antagonize the audience. We just go on and on and on.
Brilliant.
Grinding almost kind of sound. But we'll come to it, have a more of a discussion around that one when we get to the album track list, because I think it's really important. It's like their banner song, really.
Yeah, definitely one of them at least.
So then also in 1977, they put out their cover of I Can't Get Me No Satisfaction, backed with Sloppy.
Yeah. we can go into this, but I always like this version of Satisfaction because it's weird and it's purposefully almost obtuse. I always go to quite sappy because of Nirvana. It always confuses me. Sloppy, slappy, slip slops. It's kind of it's the last track, right, on the track listing on the album.
Nearly.
And it's nearly the last track, near the bottom. And I'm always just a bit give or take it. So I probably wouldn't have been too enthused, let's say, as if this was the next single, if I'm coming at it fresh.
We won't linger on that one then. So at that point, yeah, like I say, Bowie got involved and palmed them off onto Eno. But at this point, they don't have a record deal. So it's quite unusual, but Eno basically stumped up the costs to produce this album. That's how committed he was. And basically decided to record it in Germany. So actually in, I think late 77, October 1977, they did record Come Back Johnny and Shrivel Up in San Francisco with a guy called Patrick Gleason. But they later sort of overdubbed those in Germany. But essentially, the main recording sessions for the album took place in February of 1978 at Conny Planck's in Cologne, at that point, West Germany. And as well as paying for the studio time, they also managed to convince Warner Brothers to get involved. And Warner Brothers agreed to basically pay to like ship all their gear to Germany for the recording, under the understanding that they would have first refusal on the album.
Right. Okay.
So, all looks like it's all going to be peachy. And so, at this point, again, even though Bowie said like he couldn't produce the album, apparently he kept popping in.
Right.
So what's quite interesting is to like think about his involvement here, because I read some stuff with the band and they basically said he did actually provide quite a lot of like vocals. Apparently he's in there on Uncontrollable Urge.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
But this like production, it didn't go really all that well. It didn't really quite go to plan. You know, if you think about Eno at this point, you know, he's been working with Talking Heads, Bowie, and he very much brings the Eno sound to everything. And Devo really resisted this. Like they had their sound, they developed it for 5 years, and they were like, this. They just wanted the album, I think, to kind of sound how they sounded live.
Right.
So Eno's coming up with all these like tape loops and ambient synth stuff. And Jerry said apparently they'd rejected almost all of it. I think he said like there's some stuff on maybe like 4 songs. It was like they were even they'd be in the control room and Eno would be like, I've done this. And then just before they went to like dub it all down, Devo would just mute it. Like actually in front of him as well. So apparently it was like quite a confrontational kind of
fucking hell
session.
Yeah. Well, I think I like the urgency and the directness of the sound without too much ambient wank kind of surrounding it.
It's interesting to imagine though, like what would have a really truly Eno produced Devo album have sounded like.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. Unless they like actually, if they dug out, they could actually. That'd be great actually if they did a collaboration with Eno now. Like we're gonna set it right. But they could go back and find all this stuff. Apparently, all the tapes exist with some of these parts recorded, and they could remaster it and do like one with like more Eno and Bowie on it. That would be fascinating. All the Bowie fans would buy it. Jesus.
Yeah, they will now. Especially.
Any other thoughts on like the general sound of this album?
Not really. Nothing. It's as I said, it's still a bit experimental and strange, and I like the sounds that they use. I mean, this isn't necessarily about this particular album or whatever, but I would say it's a good introductory like album for people to see. Because that's the thing, like when, I guess like for when people say Devo, people think of like Whip It and all this stuff, which, I get, great. But this is like the I would say the most accessible record to people to normal people. I don't know if that makes sense, because you might listen to Whip It and be like, it's this weird like pop synth thing, and then it's like, oh, they're kind of more like a post-punk kind of new wave band. Listen to this, and I think it's a better, as you said, it's kind of a more solid album. I'm never going to get into it, but it has, I think there's just better writing behind it and stuff like Whip It, as much as I love it and it's great, it's purposefully like quite simple and perfunctory and all this stuff, whereas a lot of the tracks on here feel like a little bit more like loved or something. And I feel like it's more of a true reflection of the Devo sound that I really like, more so than tracks like Whip It or whatever.
Yeah, and also some of these songs were so worn in by this point. They'd lived with these songs for years. Right. I think as well, like Whip It, and that album, Freedom of Choice, obviously it's a poppier album, but to people's ears now, it probably sounds very dated. Whereas this, because it's more guitar heavy, it's kind of like a almost timeless kind of sound.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
It's aged a little bit better, maybe. After the sessions, on their way back to the States, they dropped into the UK for a little tour.
Why not?
And they inked a deal with Stiff Records. I don't know like the timing of this, but basically Stiff released in the UK the previous singles, Mongoloid and Satisfaction. And to support this tour, they put out 2 of the songs that had just been recorded.
Okay.
Be Stiff, backed with Social Fools. Let's hear a bit of Be Stiff. What do you think of these 2 songs?
Yeah. Be Stiff always sticks out more, in my opinion. I didn't realise that anything about this Stiff Records thing. So is that just coincidence?
I wonder if they specifically... Yeah, I wonder how that came about. I mean, Be Stiff as a Devo song had been around for a long time in their repertoire. So they certainly didn't write it and produce it for Stiff. But I can imagine they went, "Hey, we've got this song. Do you want to distribute us?" But by that point, they were hot. They were being talked about in the industry, and Stiff, being as they are, interested in at that point cutting edge punk new wave stuff. I think it became something of an anthem for the label.
Okay, sure.
Just a happy accident and a marriage made in heaven.
Made in heaven, made in Devo heaven. What do you think about it?
I like it, but the version that's on the live recording that you mentioned is twinned on that compact disc. I think it's a bit more developed. It's got another part to it. This version is quite, I don't know, it's quite repetitive. It doesn't really go anywhere.
I can't remember the difference, but okay.
It's quite strange in a way. I much prefer Social Fools. I think that's a really good one. I'd have put that on the bloody album.
Yeah, it's a cool song.
What I like about it is, compared to some of the other stuff, it makes quite a direct, I think, like social commentary, which obviously then feeds into like freedom of choice and all this. It's about if you listen to society's fools, then you become society's tools. You'll obey, then disobey. You'll disobey, but then you'll obey.
Yeah.
It's quite strange to find them making such direct statements.
Yeah, it's quite a fun little ditty.
It is indeed. Yeah. It's quite straight up enjoyable.
Quite an enjoyable one. Because that's on the compilation, the double album, if you will, between this and Devo Live. But was this just at the end of the Devo live album? Because I see that it's obviously not on the original Question Are We Not Men, Answer We Are Devo. But was this on the Devo live album then, or did they just kind of stick it on this compilation? I guess is what I'm asking. Or do you not know?
I don't think it's on the original live. That live thing's a mini album. I think it's 6 tracks.
Right, so they must have stuck these because they got Penetration in the Centerfold and Sue Balls on it as well. So they must have had those as an extra from there, which makes sense now that you're saying that it's a it kind of all got released around that time. They've probably just stuck it as a little
and actually
thing,
that version
extra.
of Social Fools that you're thinking about on there is a later recording. It's not this one.
Yeah. And as we found out, there's an even earlier, different version.
Yeah.
Which is a lot different. Cool couple of tracks.
So during this UK visit as well, they met up with Richard Branson, the head honcho of Virgin in the UK. And they don't have a lot of good things to say about Richard Branson.
No, many people do.
But he offered them a deal, and they accepted it. So this caused a lot of problems, basically, between Devo and Warner. Richard Branson said, "Don't worry about it. We'll sort it all out. I suppose, like any legal issues and blah blah blah." And they said we should never listen to him. He probably said, "Yeah, this happens all the time." To be fair, they only seem to have like it's the verbal agreement with Warner Brothers.
Right.
But apparently that poisoned the relationship from the beginning and led to the band basically being carved up between Warner in the US and Japan and Virgin in Europe.
Right.
Around this time as well, this is good. Do you know what happened? January 1978, a big band broke up.
Okay.
Any ideas? Sex Pistols.
Okay, right.
So apparently,
did you know they're doing? Danny Boyle is doing a fucking film on them or something called. I think it's just called Pistols or something like that.
No, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, but sorry.
Have you ever seen The Great Rock and Roll Swindle?
I did, but like many a moon ago, so I can't remember anything about it.
I've got
This
it
is
on
when
my.
I like. Go on.
I've got it on my list of stuff to watch soon.
Right. This is when I went through like a real. It only lasted for about a hot 5 minutes, but I went through like a massive Sex Pistols phase. But I quickly came out of it. If that makes sense. Like I still enjoy Sex Pistols and whatever, and obviously for what they were at the time, blah blah blah. But there wasn't this wealth of great stuff that people might think there was. Go on.
I think people like them more for what they stood for and their aesthetic than the actual music itself, maybe.
Yeah, well, they
That's
were
my
kind of
feeling
like one of the first. Well, not one of the first, but what people forget is that they were a boy band in the sense of the word.
Yeah.
set up like didn't know each other, all just not good looking, but like all people of a certain look put together to kind of go up, push the charts, reflecting the youth of the day. They weren't like how people think of punk as like. We're in it for we're just some mates trying to smash some instruments about, blah, blah, blah. It was like, no, they were used to push Vivienne Westwood. The clothes. That was it really.
That is the thing about punk, is it was totally manufactured, and most of the people involved in it were like puppets of people that was like sort of like 10 or 15 years older than them that were kind of like orchestrating the whole thing.
Yeah. And then it got this, just the whole attitude of like, I saw them on TV and I thought, wow, I could do that. And I went out and did it, which is great and brilliant, which is kind of like the whole ethos of punk. But it is quite strange that, that's all it is. It didn't create it, it more inspired more of a punk movement than punk itself.
Yeah.
In a weird way.
Anyhow, Devo, apparently they saw that last show, that famous show where they announced that they were breaking up.
Right.
Was it the Winter Garden, I think?
Don't know.
Anyway, that was January. And so I don't know when this was, a little bit after that initial meeting with Richard Branson. The band are back in the States. And apparently they got a call from Richard Branson saying, I'm in Jamaica. I want you to fly down. Come and meet me.
Right.
So apparently only Mark and one of the Bobs went.
Right.
And apparently like Richard Branson was in his like really amazing plush like house that he'd rented. And apparently they went down there. He got them really high and gave them the whole sales spiel. You know, it's going to be great. And then he apparently said to them, guys, in the room next door, I've got some journalists from the NME. And in the room next to them, I've got some journalists from the Melody Maker. And in the room next to them, I've got Johnny Rotten. And basically, we're going to go out and we're going to announce to the press that Johnny Rotten is the new singer of Devo.
What? Is this real?
This is true. Yeah, this is true. So yeah, that was going to be his big, I suppose, like big splash for like promoting and pushing Devo. But
Fucking hell.
He's literally saying it to Mark, who was the front man of the band.
That's so weird. Were they actually there though, or was this just Branson talking shit? Was there actually like a press waiting there? Was Johnny Rotten actually there waiting?
Do you know what? I can't remember that detail of the story. I have to go back and read it again. I think they were though. I don't think it was
Johnny
like
Rotten, he'd be like,
he'd be like
going home then.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any interviews from Johnny Rotten actually talking about this. That'd be really good.
Yeah, it would be funny. He's been a bit more outspoken these days, isn't he?
A bit more outspoken.
Well, as in, like, he went a bit quiet, didn't he, for a while?
Oh, I see.
And then with like Trump, came out as like a supporter of Trump, and all this stuff, which surprised obviously a lot of, because obviously people associating with the punk and anti-establishment and anti, Tory basically, and then he's just giving his support to like a right-wing politician, or however you want to call him, and a lot of people got a bit upset about it. But at the same time, like, it's quite funny because I was reading this interview with him and he was saying how like his wife is like really ill because he married an older woman in the end, and she's like, but dementia or something and all this stuff, and he's just basically like having to like look after her. And you just think that's quite nice, but at the same time, he's insane. I was like, because he did Celebrity Get Me Out of Here, and I was like, God, he was so old, and that was like 10 years ago or something. He was on that. So he's even older, but I just can't imagine him as the singer of Devo. So weird, just completely, just shows just like absolutely not understanding your band or the art you're creating. Just don't care, especially it's like when they like look at my swanky pad. It's like to anyone with half a fucking brain, it's like going, here's how I'm going to squeeze every single bit of money from you.
To pay for all this.
Yeah, to pay for this, exactly. Like,
it's funny because if you see the films, so then I think like the next year or later that year they made this film, the Men Who Make the Music. Have you seen that?
Right. No.
There's these skits where they go to Big Entertainment, which is like their record label, and there's this guy called Rod Reuter who's like their manager A&R guy, and all of like how his offices look and the way he talks makes me think of this like episode with Richard Branson.
Right. I'm not surprised.
I'm sure that's who they're lampooning. They're really good, those clips. The Men Who Make the Music.
I've got a couple of stories of Richard Branson actually myself, if you want to hear them.
Yeah.
They're not like amazing, but within, I would say, like the space of a couple of months, I bumped into Richard Branson twice. Once.
Were you on Virgin flights?
That was one of them. I was on a Virgin flight to Hong Kong where I was meeting my mate Si, if you remember when he was doing his travelling, went out to Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
On the flight over, there was hardly anyone on the flight. And I remember the tannoy announcer like being like really chatty and upbeat. And I thought, that's strange. I don't think I'd ridden Virgin before. And then all of a sudden, like Richard Branson comes out and he's like shaking everyone's hand and going round. And I could see him. I mean, I was like a big hot mess, basically, especially after like whatever it was, a 12-hour flight. And I saw him look at me and he basically decided not to shake my hand and he went off and shook everyone else's.
Wow.
And because I was just like, well, I'm just some kid, aren't I? Like, well, and then a few weeks later, and this is what's weird, is that I was in Kensington High Street going into the station and he was standing there shaking hands. He was getting on the tube, basically, and he was shaking hands with, which I thought was weird anyway, with some just passers-by or whatever. And I clocked him and he clocked me and I thought, I reckon he recognises me. I reckon he's looked at me with that same disdain from before and he's had exactly the same reaction. And that's my Richard Branson story.
Do you think he felt like a twinge of disgust that he's never felt before in his life?
Yeah.
And then he went, I've only, and then when he saw you the second time, he thought, I've only ever felt that once in my life. And it was when I saw that horrible, sweaty man.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, and here he is. Just trying to get the tube.
It's like Spidey sense, Sammy sense. My Sammy sense is tingling.
Only for Richard, anyways, between me and Richard Branson. Yeah, that was weird. But yeah, I don't really hold him in very high regard, put it that way.
Well, no, not after that. Maybe third time's the charm, Sam.
Maybe.
Next time he'll embrace you.
Oof. No, thanks. Give me some money. Just give me some money and go away. That's how these things work. Right?
Well, you're going to start working street corners. Is that what you're talking about?
No. What are you talking about? No, not again. That was done. Yeah, when I say Kensington High Street, I mean like behind the Brixton Academy. That's what I meant, or something. Not that that's an actual place where. Yeah, so let's move on anyway. So
I think I mean this just shows though like Branson, like his kind of mindset at the time. He was doing all these quite strange, outside the box like marketing and publicity ploys, I think, to get attention on Virgin.
Yeah.
Like one thing they did after signing the band, before the album came out, this thing, a 7-inch single, came out on Elevator Records, and it's spoken about now. No one's quite 100% sure, but people think it was actually put out by Virgin, made to look like a bootleg, just to generate a bit of hype and excitement around the band.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'd really like to get a copy. It's Mechanical Man.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is an old hardcore track. It's on, I think it's on the compilation. It's Mechanical Man, an early version of Blockhead, which is on their second album. Something called Blackout. I can't remember what that is.
Don't know.
And Auto Mowdown, which is another sort of like hardcore era. But yeah, that's just quite an interesting little release. Should we hear a little bit of Mechanical Man?
Mechanical Man. I'm a mechanical man. 2 mechanical arms. 2 mechanical legs. I'm a 2 + 2 = 1 man.
So the album finally came out on the 8th of August, 1978. It peaked at number 78 in the US on the Billboard chart. But in the UK, it got to number 12.
Mechanical Man?
No, the
got
album.
to number 12. Oh, sorry, right. thinking that's insane. It's not that good.
No,
Right.
the album. So I was quite surprised to read that just now, because when we got into the band, they were by no means still remembered or known in the mainstream. They felt like a very underground band.
Yeah.
But yeah, it got to number 12, their first album. I suppose because of all that promotion. Virgin
Richard Branson did his work.
Did indeed. And they did a lot. Like they put out more than 5. It's like 7 or 8 different coloured pressings of it as well. All these kind of things to like hype it up and get the sales moving.
Nice.
What do you think, Sam, about the title and the cover?
Well, if we're going back, it's funny because the cover I was associated with is the alternative European cover, which is like him in a doctor's coat with some gloves on, looking into a vat or something, as if he's just like created you or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's what I was associated with. But then the actual album cover, I remember seeing like around, if that makes sense, but I didn't know what it was or if it was just some promotional image. Not realizing until it's actually, the album cover, which I really like. Actually, he looks like familiar now. I'm trying to think of an actor that he reminds me of, and I'll try and think of that as we're talking because it's going to really annoy me. But I like the whole like it looks a bit like 50s. It's super colourful. It's the fact that it's like a golf ball or whatever, like middle class kind of like humdiggity America with like this kind of like all American guy staring back at you. The Devo, that classic jumbled up thing which they kept obviously.
That logo
throughout.
Yeah, it's great.
And then, and the fact that it's not, it's just from that you'd get the album title is just question: Are we not men? And I don't know like what to. I don't know what I'm supposed to take from it, if that makes sense. Because I guess like it's ingrained in my head as an image, as a Devo image. So I can't really see it objectively, but I think if I'm looking at it now and like the question, are we not men thing is kind of scribbled on it. So the fact that I wonder if it's like, having that man like having like a kind of golf ball with this guy inside it or whatever, as if like that's what we've become like as men or something like that.
Yeah.
Like these fucking golfers or whatever. Like, are we not men? Like, is this what we do now? Maybe. But I've only just thought about that now, basically trying to look at it objectively because just forever I've just been like, it's just a Devo face, like a all-American kind of face.
I imagine that's what they kind of saw in the image when they selected it. So it's actually a picture of a golfer called Juan Chichi Rodriguez that they found on a golf strap. And they liked it for whatever reason, but I think probably for the reason that you've suggested.
Right.
But apparently when they gave it to Warner Brothers, basically the image and said, we want that for the album cover. A chap called David Berman, who was the senior vice president there, was a golf fan and said, no, you're making fun of Chi-Chi. So you can't use it.
Brilliant.
They basically said, like, we'll get permission from Chi-Chi. But at that point they were under time constraints to get it all pressed.
Right.
So what they did was they said, well, we can airbrush the face so that it's not such a clear resemblance of him.
Right.
And Mark Mothersbaugh found a composite from a newspaper where they'd morphed the faces of John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford.
Wow.
So what you've got there is Chi-Chi, but it's also sort of morphed with this amalgam of like US presidents.
I'm trying to place it. It's not really working for me, but okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't get that when you just look at it, but really there's like a synthesis of like Americana, 50s Americana with some sort of like cynical, I suppose, political statement going on in there. Funnily enough, Chi-Chi did give his permission eventually, but by then it was too late.
Too late, Chi-Chi.
But if you look at the cover of the Be Stiff single, that's got the original Chi-Chi image on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Just look at that whilst you keep talking. That's interesting.
In the UK, in Europe, like you say, that version that we're familiar with Mark leaning down, I like what you said, like as if we've just been born and he's reaching down to help us up.
So weird. Is it from a music video or something?
Yeah, so it's from the film that I mentioned earlier, which I keep forgetting the name of.
Right.
Is it The Truth About the Evolution?
Right.
I think.
I'm just looking at that Chi-Chi thing, by the way. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, they've kind of squiffed it a little bit.
It's a still, basically. And on the back cover, there's a picture of them with those like horrible tights over their faces. And I don't know why Virgin decided to take these images from that film, but I actually think it's really cool.
Right.
I think I prefer it to the American cover, even though that's obviously like the more iconic.
Yeah, I prefer the American one. It's just a bit more bolder, makes more of a statement. The other one doesn't. I'm just like, what is it? It also like it kind of comes at me like it's a bit too wacky. Or it's like some like weird electronic German thing or something like that, which is not what it actually is. It doesn't. I like the bold, bright yellow, bright colours of the American one, I have to say, personally.
Fair enough. Most people do. The title is from a film called Island of Lost Souls. Have you seen that?
The name rings a bell.
It's a 30s...
It's the one... there's that... Oh, God, it's that book and it got made into a film and it's set in a prison. And
that's it. Island of Dr. Moreau. Something. No, you're thinking something else.
I was thinking of something else completely. No, I was thinking of there's a... I'm basically mixing up everything. There's a book that part of it is these two gay guys in prison and one of them describes all these old movies to the other one. And I think one of them was The Island of Lost Souls. Another one is Cat People, I think. And all this. And that book got made into a film, which had, and I forget his name. I've forgotten everyone's name. He won an Oscar, basically, for the portrayal in the film. So I'm just going around in circles. But yeah, is it Island of Dr. Moreau? Is that what this is supposed to be from? Because I know that. And that that's a... do you know the story of that film, the one with Marlon Brando, Island of Dr. Moreau?
No.
I think Val Kilmer's in it as well.
Yeah,
but the director...
I haven't seen it.
So it went through hell for ages. It's off on a real tangent, but I always find it quite funny. Went through like hell to like make. The director basically got kicked off the shoot and came back dressed as an extra to see the rest of the shoot as it happened.
Wow.
It's one of those films that has an absolutely insane, like obviously it's got Brando in it and he's only in Val Kilmer, who's just known as a dick as well and all this stuff. It's a really, really interesting production story, but that always made me laugh with the director getting kicked off. But it got released in the end.
That's crazy.
It was an average film, to be honest. It wasn't awful. So is that what Island of Lost Souls is?
Island of Lost Souls is the first version of H.G. Wells' Island of Dr. Moreau, with dialogue, apparently. I think there's a silent version.
Right.
So it's not a direct, it's influenced by, I think. But in that film, he creates these subhuman type creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this pivotal scene. I think the film's great. I really like it. If you like those like 30s black and white RKO kind of era horror sci-fi films, it's up there as one of the best. But yeah, there's this scene where they all kind of like break out and they're all there like chanting, "Are we not men?" They do like this call and response thing.
Okay.
They're going, "Are we not men?" And they go, we are. I don't know if they say we are Devo.
Devo.
They say we are men, I think, or something.
Right. Yeah.
But that's where they got that call and response chant that they would use in Jocko Homo. And you can see why like that would appeal to them. Like, this is it. Like, they came up with that central premise of de-evolution, and they just take things and like graft it to it. So they must have seen that, this idea of these like subhuman mutants who are kind of like an underclass. They're devolving, but they're also asserting their humanity.
Right. That's cool. That's it's quite a nice way of thinking of it. That's funny. Funny enough that I was just, as I was looking at whilst we were talking, there's a documentary on that Are Devo Dr. Moreau thing, which I'm going to seek out now, which is in 2014. It was made, called Lost Soul: The Tomb Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. Just apparently insane. But yeah, that's a good. It's a good title. Are We Not Men? We Are Devo. It's a good lyric as well.
Yeah. So Sam, I think it's time to have a chat about these songs. The album kicks off with Uncontrollable Urge. Uncontrollable Urge.
Opener.
It's got an urge, got surge.
It's brilliant. It's one of those songs that I've always wanted to do live as well. One day. But it's what a fantastic opening track. And just every time I stick this album on or whatever, and they're like, I'm just like, yes, I'm back in straight away. Love it from the get-go, from the absolute get-go. And
it's such an exciting one.
It is, yeah. And I'm always like, I enjoy the builds and the releases and all that. And Devo's got a few of those anyway, but this is like pure build and release.
What about that quirky vocal as well?
Yeah,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. And it's one of those things where it's like, you've not heard that. Like, what is this? You've not heard it before. You don't know what's kind of going on. These bunch of like geeky looking guys as well. And it's like as if it does feel like almost like a performance art, but at the same time, it is catchy as hell.
Yeah.
It's just a real great, just like general rock song. Love it. It's brilliant. It's one of my favourite tracks of like, let alone Devo, of like ever. It's great.
It's probably one of my favourite opening songs on an album.
Yeah.
Lyrically it sets out this, core concern of the band, which is about how, they are, or we are as humans, devolved from sexually obsessed brain-eating apes.
Yeah.
And thus we have these sexual urges. Often these are explored in quite bizarre fashions, but here again, it's quite a direct statement of that, just basically saying, got an uncontrollable sexual urge.
Yeah. I like the way he's also got his like hype man before hype men were even a thing. Like I said, yep. He said, yeah. I said, yeah. He said, yeah. Yeah, just things like that. Just that in itself, that little like 1-2 thing.
Yeah.
It's just surreal. Like, I don't know anything like it that's done in that way. Like, it's all like a comic. It's like as if it's animated or something. It's weird. It's like not real, like a cartoon, I should say. Sorry. The way it's like performed and everything, it's just insane. It's great.
The second track is the cover of the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction.
Should we give it a listen?
Sure, let's do it. love it. This was another one like Jocko Homo. When I heard it for the first time, my jaw dropped. It was just so unlike anything I'd heard to that point. Funnily enough, around the same time, The Residents did something similar. So
Really?
they did a kind of like weird version of Satisfaction. I don't know who did it first. I think I remember reading that basically neither one had been released at the time the other recorded, so they couldn't have copied each other.
Right.
But their version's a bit more of like it sounds weird, but Devo's one goes that extra step in terms of like genuinely deconstructing the song. And I love how they basically like strip away all the things that like music fans of the late 60s and 70s loved. All that kind of like the flash blues rock guitar gone.
Yeah.
We're just taking it down to like rhythm. We're going to distort that rhythm, make it so weird and strange and mechanical and robotic.
Yeah.
And in a way, almost like kind of detached and aloof.
Yeah.
And then just focus you on these like lyrics that are about like commerce and marketing, basically.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Amazing.
'Cause, yeah, as you said, it's like deconstructed, and like built back up, and it's like by a robot or something. It does feel very like mechanical and industrial. And yeah, it's, as you said, it takes away anything that's like cool about it.
Yeah.
It's purposefully not being cool. They've taken like one of the coolest, you could say, like, you know, Rolling Stones tracks of all time or whatever, and they've just gone, nope, here is a very do or whatever, just like a really like weird, simplistic. And then, you know, and I remember I don't remember the first time I heard this, but I remember like around the first time I heard it, just being like, it's not even, it's just a completely different song. It's not even a cover, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, but yet it's still weirdly got the kind of melody and obviously the lyrics, and it's kind of got the same cadence as well in a strange way.
Yeah.
And it's just surreal. And again, I quite like the way it's kind of a nice little like slice of like, there's a word for it, I can't remember, but like a microcosm, I guess, of Devo, which is like taking songs and stuff that is actually quite popular or poppy or whatever, mainstream, and putting it through the Devo filter, but just, as you said, like remanufacturing it to be something that is almost making you more aware of the music itself by kind of stripping away the sheen for the most part and playing with your expectations and the style and all this stuff. And it's weird. I can't say I particularly, to be honest, I can't say I particularly love it. I don't really like the original either, but
no, likewise.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, it's fine, but for me here, it's more like it's there to almost make a point or something more than anything. And just to be like, you know, here's like probably something they may have done live, I imagine. Like, here's taking a rock and roll song and we're going to make a really weird cover of it. So fuck you, kind of thing, in a strange way.
I suppose the replay value of this is diminished. And maybe that's sort of where some of the accusations of being like a novelty comedy band kind of come in.
Yeah.
There is an inherent humour in it, and how just like weird it is. Apparently Jagger loved this.
I bet he did.
Because they had to play it to him to like get them to approve it being released.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, as much as I piss on the Stones or whatever, I don't really. But like, I've listened to this stuff and you know, read interviews, read Keith Richards' book and whatever, and all this stuff. But they're big like music fans. You can't really take that away from them. Like, they loved their blues. They loved like what people were doing. All right, they kind of became one of the biggest bands of all time. But I think I can imagine, like, you know, Jagger's like a very intelligent, well brought up young man. I imagine him hearing something like this, he would rather hear that than like some fucking trashy, you know, just trying to sound like them, basically, kind of thing. He'd rather listen to people doing something different.
He probably saw dollar signs spinning in his eyes as well.
Sure. Why not? He'd have been all right by then. I mean, I think that's where, like, I want to say that's where they made most of their money. Stones was
Devo.
till the song. Huh? Well, no,
Through Devo.
through Devo, yeah. It was through writing so many songs and like letting other, like Marianne Faithfull and all this stuff, like writing songs for them. I think that's what they say. It's that thing, isn't it? Like, oh, if you want to make real money, get into like music publishing or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, it's interesting. Sorry. Anyway.
Next up, Praying Hands. Yeah, what do you think of that one?
I love this one as well. I love the instructional nature of it, almost like a corporate video or something. But the idea that it's like you're well, I imagine, what is it? Your left hand dilly or something like that.
While your left hand's diddling.
Yeah, diddling is it. So
and your
like,
right hand goes to work.
Yeah, that's right. It's as if like you're, all like work and play almost, like diddling.
Yeah.
Imagine, I've always associated the word like diddle as a masturbatory thing of a childish nature, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and then the other hand's working, like keeping up the pretense of, of being an adult. And then you put those two hands together, like there's two sides of you, whatever, and you've got praying hands. It's a spiritual, godlike thing, like a higher nature or something. And it's just interesting. But I just like the way it's just the context of it being, this is what you do. This is how you do it, like a dance move or something like that. It's a great track. What do you reckon?
A great interpretation of that image, I think. Yeah, I was thinking about what you just said. They've got a song down the line like "Watch Us Work It" and "When We Do It" and things like this. It's almost like you say, it's like such a reductive statement almost of like how man lives on Earth. Just boil it down to like basically you're just carrying out a few machine-like functions. All your decisions and your personality and. I love the whole like, okay, relax and assume the position.
Yeah.
This one's got that really cool like new wave kind of like hi-hats and stuff as well. This is like a really new wavy song.
Yeah, it is. I guess as well, like talking about the left hand, right hand could be like the political spectrum, especially if they come from an art school, like diddling, as in like doodling or drawing or whatever, but the right hand doing the work, like the more conservative, like lefty righty kind of thing, all united under one God. I'm not saying it's that, but that idea of like, political, the political left and the political right.
Well, I think capitalism definitely is there. There's a lot of concern, especially in these early songs, about manufacturing and repeating. We get it on the next album, Smart Patrol. We shove the poles in the holes.
Yeah. We shove the poles in. It's like a big gang vocal.
Yeah.
Great.
So it's like it's in like manufacturing, industrial, but it's also obviously sexual. But I think that's what's going on here as well. The diddling hand is sexual. You've got the other hand that's kind of like got its hand on the pole, so to speak. Yeah. It's a good one. Space Junk.
Cool.
Let's hear a bit.
I'm always in two minds with this. So I usually, if I see it coming up, I'll probably skip it. And then every time I start listening to it, it kind of draws me in. I think because I like that bang, bang, doodle-doo, that kind of weird offbeat guitar riff that's actually quite bright and fun as it's talking about basically him killing someone. I guess.
Yeah. All that bright, nice stuff. It's got like such a jerky, weird, off-putting rhythm behind it, though.
Mm. Like the vocal melody, like doesn't quite fit.
Yeah.
The bright, this kind of like big, nice, kind of jangly, almost like song vibrancy, and then it's like, you know, quite monotonous vocals apart from that space junk. It's a weird interplay of melody almost. But yeah, I always have just a bit like, ugh, whatever, because it's got that build up again, has that build up, and he's talking about all the different places, whatever, where this space junk's gone, this thing from space.
I love that part. It's like the drama's ratcheting up. It's like, he's just listing off all these weird places. And his voice sort of gets manipulated a bit. And I wonder if that's one of the places where they actually kept in some of Eno's stuff.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the way it's like, just listing off these random towns or countries or whatever.
Venezuela.
Yeah, exactly. And again, saying it all in classic weird Devo style. And then, that nice kind of, goes back into that guitar riff and
almost surfy.
That release. Yeah, it is almost surfy. And it does feel, it's got quite a cool solo bit as well, if I remember rightly.
Why are you skipping this song?
It's all there. That's what I mean. It's one of those things where I think, I'm just like, oh yeah, whatever, Space Giants, move on to the next one. But yes, if I've listened to like 5 seconds of it, I get pulled right back into it again. I think maybe what it is when I think about it is that build up, even though you said you liked it, maybe it just goes on for a little bit too long for me. Could possibly be it. Maybe.
I mean, the song's only 2 minutes and 14 seconds.
It's too long.
I really like the lyrics as well, which are kind of like this very late 50s rock and roll kind of thing, of like Sally in the alley, sneaking Sally down the alley, but she's about to get hit by like a bit of space wars,
space junk.
Cold War space junk.
And that's interesting. So I read it that like he killed her, and this was him just making up some excuse that like some space junk came and hit her around the head, because it's just such a ridiculous, stupid thing. But because it kind of like talks about she's walking down the street and she got hit by some space junk, or she was in an alley, her name was Sally, whatever. And then it kind of goes off of what I'd said, these places, and it comes back to like the last verse or whatever, coming back to, I can't remember the lyrics, I haven't got them in front of me, but like coming back to like, oh yeah, and by the way, Sally died, but it was some junk from space. Like, she's dead, but it's nothing to do with me. I don't know if I could be reading it wrong.
No, maybe you're right. I'd never thought of that.
It's quite, weird. It's a bit rapey, really, in a horrible way. I guess you could look at it if you're looking at it like that. But
On to another one with a dark bent. It is Mongoloid.
did listen to this earlier, a different version thereof.
Yes, this is the Eno-produced album version. I think this is one of the more musically accomplished and rounded pieces on this album. Certainly with the darkest sound, that like grumbling bass under everything. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, as I said, like we covered this, and it is I think the reason why we chose it as well is because it's very like like there's something almost a bit metal almost about it.
Yeah, nasty driving riff.
Yeah, it's like and you know the lyrics being about like this like, fucking poor guy going to work trying to live like a normal life, and yeah, he's a mongoloid. Essentially, like he's got an extra chromosome, and all this stuff, but he's still being like forced into the fucking rat race and trying to like just get by. And I think it's kind of supposed to be a bit of a thing between like we've all got, you know, we're all different. We've all got like our own problems or whatever and stuff like that, but we're all just trying to squeeze into like this mold of having to like go out, get money, get the bacon. No one knows, like no one knows what's wrong. And yeah, we just kind of get on with it. So that's how I kind of imagined it. And I thought, well, like, why about, you know, a mongoloid? And I thought, well, the extra chromosome fits into the fact of like, you know, going into the DNA evolution, de-evolution and all that stuff. So that's probably where they went with that, which is interesting. But it's also a little bit like South Park kind of humor, almost a bit, you know, a bit silly, but in a, I don't know, like not a mean way, but a little bit kind of bordering on offensive, but not really, I guess.
Yeah, that got them a bit hot water. I don't think that was their intention. And again, I think that's sort of like born out of just their whole ethos. Is a lot of it's sort of on the edge of good taste, but I suppose, you know, that's the thing when you're trying to push the envelope. But they did have to explain themselves to, I think, some societies. But how actually they felt it was making a positive statement about people, you know, disability and their role in the community.
Yeah, well, which you can do, I guess, and like to be like, they're still normal people. They can go out and do whatever, which is fine. Yeah. I don't think they're actually doing that here, to be honest. I think it's a bit bullshit. But that's why I'm kind of like, if you see it as, I don't really know what the right context to see it as is, but yeah, I think that's why I saw it as a kind of thing of like, he's got a very specific genetic issue. But yeah, when the chorus is like, mongoloid, he's a mongoloid, I could imagine that would stir up some problems. But putting that to one side, which is easy for a white, middle-aged, middle-class man to do, it's I still really like it as a song. And the chorus as well, it's where it kind of just kind of like builds up. Again, it's kind of like a little mini build and release. Like the chorus is a bit more free flow and like a bit more less metal, and it's like quite nice all of a sudden. You know, then no one knew, do woo, builds up again. So it's almost like jubilant. It's almost like, you know, a celebration of this guy going out and doing whatever. So I guess maybe, but yeah, I don't think listening to it, it felt like it was, you know, making the Down syndrome people like heroes or anything like that. I think that's a little bit much for them to kind of say it's therefore. I like it anyway as a track. Yeah, what do you reckon?
Nothing to add to what you've said. I think, I think you've nailed it. I think it's time to talk about Jocko Homo.
Jocko Homo.
So, like I said earlier, this to me, jaw-dropping moment, hadn't had anything quite like it. Designed to irritate probably 99% of the population. It's just such a aggressively antagonistic, grinding kind of song. So strange. The chorus is like unlike anything else. Call and response stuff. This really does feel like their like personal anthem. The long middle section. Are we not men? We are Devo. But also all the stuff about the like de-evolution, evolution.
Yeah.
They tell us that we lost our tails, evolving up from little snails. They say it's all just wind in sails. We not men, we are Devo.
Yeah. It's all kind of it's like this. It's almost like this is the soundtrack to their film or whatever.
Yeah.
Like everything that they are as a band is kind of in this song.
Yeah.
So I agree. And it's a good song as well. And it's very fucking weird. It's very strange.
There's a few versions as well. I don't think this is my favourite actually because it misses the part where they go, I've got a rhyme that ends in a riddle. Oh, hi, oh. What's round on the ends and high in the middle? Oh, hi, oh. And then it goes, all together now, God made man.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. I think as well, like part of this is their like sing-along kind of festival type song. Like, are we not men? We are Devo or whatever. Like rallying cry, which everyone can kind of get involved with.
But only through exposure to it. Like I said, I think earlier on they would play this. This was designed to antagonize people who didn't understand the music. And they've spoken about playing 15-minute versions just to clear a room.
Yeah. I bet. She could do a lot with it. Like, what do you reckon about the term Jocko Homo? Because it's like, I was thinking, is it that whole thing of like the gay jock or something like that? Or am I don't know.
No, I think that's totally intended to be interpreted like that. But it's actually from an old pamphlet called Jocko Homo Heaven Bound.
Right.
That they found.
What's that?
I can't remember that much off the top of my head. But it's basically like an old religious pamphlet from, I think, Victorian era.
Right.
And it's got this image of like the devil pointing the way for like a monkey to get into heaven.
Okay.
So again, it's like another image just like loaded, really, that they went, oh my God, yeah. And they took aspects of that and grafted it to this burgeoning de-evolution concept.
Right.
But yeah, if you Google Jocko Homo Heaven Bound, you can have a look at that.
Interesting.
An important piece of groundwork being laid. Devo vibe.
Yeah. It's it's kind of I wouldn't say it. I don't think it's like their best song, but it is like the Devo song. Yeah,
it is the song that you need to hear.
Yeah, exactly.
If you want to know what they're all about.
For sure.
Too Much Paranoias is next, opening side 2.
Oh, nice. Should you have a listen?
Should you have a cheeky bit? Yeah.
The reason why I always kind of forget about this song is because it's one of the skippable ones in my head. I quite like the weird jerky guitars, but like just that, bump.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to listen to. But that guitar riff, it's quite weird and quirky and cool. But for me, this is I'm just not enamored by it.
I love the mood it creates. It does create a paranoid, claustrophobic kind of vibe.
Yeah, true.
And I love how he's just quoting all this garbage from TV commercials. So a load of it's from a Burger King
Oh, really?
commercial, all that stuff. Hold tomato, hold the lettuce, special orders don't upset us, just as long as we can serve it your way.
Right, yep. That's from a Burger King commercial, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think this is just about, being trapped in modern corporate
Nice.
America.
Nice. How fitting.
But it acts as a nice little, I think, intro segue to the more substantive song, which is Gut Feeling.
Yeah, let's listen to this. This is probably one of my favorite Devo songs ever. Again, it's much more accessible, I would say, and also do you remember we went to see? Who did we go and see? Ty Segall. Were you there?
No.
Oh,
No.
It was me. I was definitely there with Rich and I think this guy John. And I had to leave early to get back home to catch the train. And he apparently played Gut Feeling. I'm pretty sure he did. Maybe it's Uncontrollable Urge. But whatever, he did Uncontrollable Urge or Gut Feeling. I can't remember which one. But I remember thinking, fucking hell, must have been cool. Because no one does that.
Yeah.
No one does that. But yeah, Gut Feeling it's quite rocky, I would say. It's quite guitar based. And again, it's perfect build up, release. Especially by the end, it's you're really, really into it. I like the way it just begins with that, just nice little gentle picking, and then goes into the verse, in a really cool, stylized way. And then, it's just just fucking rocking. It's just hammering it home right to the end. It's great. It's a great song.
Agreed. Yeah, it's so tightly wound, and it's just all that build up, masterfully done. I suppose my only criticism is that at that point where you're just desperate for it to break into something. And what it breaks into is Slap Your Mammy, which isn't the most accomplished piece of music they ever did. It feels to me like it's a kind of silly country infused throwaway.
Yeah.
It's just a shame, they couldn't have given a bit more of a payoff to all that build up and tension of Gut Feeling. But Gut Feeling itself, amazing.
Yeah, it is great. Yeah, let's listen to Slap Your Mammy. We can talk about it.
Slap Your Sammy.
Slap you, yeah. Map Your Sammy, I suppose. I think it's as bad as. It does kind of feel like a bit of a tag on to the previous song. But I quite like the way it's like, it's almost like a territorial pissings a little bit. It's like super fast, super rough. It's over before you know it. But in its own Devo way, it's just a bit stupid, fast. And I quite like that about it. It's a bit frenzied.
Why would you want to slap your mammy?
Well, I don't know. Isn't that like, I don't know.
And move it all around now.
Don't know. Maybe
Those
it's
are the
a
only lyrics.
sex thing.
Dirty. It sounds like a dirty song, doesn't it? Basically.
Yeah, I think it might be. Okay.
After that, we get "Come Back, Johnny."
I like this one.
What do you like about it?
I like the way
The
it
music.
sounds. Huh?
The music.
I like the music and I like the sounds that it
Words.
makes. It feels like it's a bit more of a story, I guess, in the lyrics or whatever.
Yeah, a bit like I said with Space Junk. It's got that like an old 50s rock and roll vibe.
Yeah. It does feel like that. And I don't know. It feels a bit more like serious. Like where the other ones are a bit silly or stupid. This feels a little bit more weirdly, a bit more serious. I don't know if there's another word for it. Even though it is still a bit stupid.
Yeah, there was a genre actually, wasn't there? Of these kind of like teen tragedy drama type rock and roll songs.
Mm.
So I think that's what it's kind of lampooning.
Yeah, true. I mean, Johnny Be Good, literally. But I quite like the guitar work in it. It's, like a little bit surfery, I guess, vibe to it, the way the guitar sounds sometimes.
Yeah.
And I quite like the melody, but it's not like, I don't get excited when it comes on, put it that way.
Yeah, same here. I think it's my least favourite song on the album. It's maybe a little too conventional.
Right.
Its construction, maybe. It just doesn't deal that much for me. It's fine. There's actually a music video for this one. Have you seen it?
No.
Quite fun. They're like dressed up as cowboys and they're in some like bowling alley.
It is a bit cowboy sounding, I suppose.
Yeah. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, that ding, ding, ding.
That rhythm.
I'll check it out.
Let's move on from that then to Sloppy. I saw my baby get in. That title alone does it for me. It's just so weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I quite like the beginning bit and the like do 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 and all that stuff, and you know him
Saw
like,
My
hey,
Baby
hey,
Yesterday.
hey, yeah, and it was like exactly, but it's all like Kaiser Chiefs style, like again.
No,
build,
don't say that. Oh no,
build, release. But yeah,
I'll never hear it again in the same way now.
Yeah, true. But like it's kind of a build and then like punching the lyrics out at some points. And then, but I really didn't like the chorus. I guess I've come to love it a bit more. With that, you know, she's just up here, like really high pitched.
Yeah.
It's just always a bit like, and then the verse just like kind of just comes back in. And I've always been a bit like, yeah, it's like, it feels weird. Like it doesn't feel like a natural flow to it.
That's what I like about it.
Yeah,
I love that the chorus is so weird in that way, and then it just stops. It just like all falls out, and then just like, now what? And then it just starts again. It's so strange. There's nothing else quite like it. It's another one where, like lyrically as well, it feels like it's lampooning that classic Americana of like rock and roll. You know, Saw My Baby Yesterday, and like singing about spend my money on a car and all this. Yeah. And then you get to the chorus, and the chorus is, she said sloppy, I think I missed the hole.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah, what does that actually mean? What do you reckon?
Sloppy. She's addressing the singer as sloppy, I think. She said sloppy.
He's a sloppy shag. It's in, he's not very good, or what? Missed the hole.
I don't know. Well, maybe that's it. Yeah, exactly. I think in a way it's like a puerile thing about anal sex.
Right. Nice.
But again, it's not it's not direct. There's something like kind of like weird and unpleasant. And I mean, sloppy at the end of the day isn't a pleasant word. It conjures up all kinds of horrible images.
True, yeah. I guess like, yeah, thinking about it, you've just talked about it. Maybe it's the whole thing of like, it's this very confident, bold, brash verse. She's got whatever it is, a brand new car. Something about it's all like, yeah, motherfucker, like walking around, like, and then the chorus being like, oh, but he's really insecure because he's really bad at sex or whatever, like behind closed doors.
Yeah, could be.
That confidence just melts away, and then another day starts, and the verse comes back in. And it's all confident again. Yeah. Exactly, yeah, like walking outside, like, yeah, it's a brand new day. I can't wait. Maybe. When I look at it like that, if I look at it in that context, I probably like it more. the power of interpretation. But yeah, generally speaking, as a song, I've always been a bit like, yeah, okay. Like as soon as it breaks down, I think after that first chorus, I'm always a bit like, yeah, okay, moving on. Like, yeah, I've heard it. I've heard the song, basically. Pretty much just heard the song from that first verse and chorus.
Fair enough. And once you've missed the hole, Sam, what do you do? You shrivel up.
Speak for yourself, friend. Speak for yourself. Let's have a listen to Shrivel Up.
This is a quite unusual song. I think it sounds different to everything else on this album. Something like dry and dark, atmospheric, weird.
Yeah, it reminds me of who did the South Park theme song, the original one? Was it Wilco or something?
Oh, I can't remember.
I think it was Wilco. Maybe I made that up. But it feels like that. Like it's massively like weird, and the way like his vocals are so like creepy and like talky and strange. It
sounds like it's got a strange like space to it that other tracks don't. It sounds like they're in a dungeon or something. There's some weird,
it's really reverby,
like dank sounds, almost like you can hear things dripping. It's like a kind of like a plop noise in there.
Yeah.
I just think it's really unusual and a very unnerving, unpleasant kind of atmosphere, which isn't inappropriate for the album, and it kind of works as a closing song. Again, it feels like they're lampooning like a more mainstream rock kind of persona of like, you know, the band leader might be like, tighten up guys, bring it home. And he's like, shrivel up Devo. And then they like bring it in basically to end the album.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. I quite like that.
I've always liked that. It's like, yeah, I'm going to tell the band to shrivel up.
Yeah.
I can imagine them as like these, weird mutant robots on stage, just kind of like shriveling into like a tiny little pile of goo or something.
Yeah, I guess it's like also like, dying really as well.
Yeah.
Like as if, or like if we're going down the like evolutionary thing, like they've, like that's what happens when you kill like a bug or something like that, or I don't know, like it kind of shrivels up. I don't know, like it's about to shed its skin. I don't know, something weird. There's something like, I think the word shrivel is an interesting use of, an interesting word to use, I should say. What are the rest of the lyrics then? I can't remember.
They're really strange. It's a God-given fact.
That's right.
That you're gonna get small. Yes, you're gonna get small.
I mean, that's it. Maybe it's devolution, literally. You're not growing out. You're not expanding. You're shriveling up. You're getting smaller and devolving.
I think you've nailed it. I think that's it. And that's why it's here at the end. It's like the final statement.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I don't mind it. I'm just always like, it serves its use as the final track of the album. It's not a song I'm going to listen to. It's not a song. It's more like a, as you said, performance piece kind of thing. If you think of Devo as performance artist almost, it kind of makes sense in that context. But yeah, overall, that's like, it's like a 9 out of 10 album kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's so close to being perfect, but it does what it needs to do. Just the hits really hit, really smash your face in. Great album.
So we'll talk about how it was received by the critics, maybe when we come to looking at some reviews. But apparently it's a bit of a mixed reception. Although obviously, like I said, commercially it did fairly well. So that came out in August. On the 14th of October, they performed on Saturday Night Live. So until this point, they've been playing to audiences of maybe, 1,500 people, 2,000.
Right.
Suddenly, they're being broadcast to 15 million viewers across mainstream America. And I often see a lot of people commenting on this performance. They did Satisfaction and Jocko Homo. Can you imagine just turning on your TV set,
seeing that,
and seeing these guys in those yellow radiation suits with all their like jerky, robotic kind of movements and things, playing those two songs?
That would be cool. I'm going to try and see and search out for it, because that's brilliant. I bet it was. Yeah, I'm just watching it now. Fucking insane. And the guy that's presenting it is the guy who died recently, who is in this is Spinal Tap and Space Force. He's been in tons of stuff.
What? Someone died recently from Spinal Tap?
Yeah, the dad in everything. Spinal Tap, where he's getting shown around the military base. He's like, my haircut, whatever. He's been in tons of stuff. He's in all the Christopher Guest films.
I'm getting a little shaggy at the back myself.
That's right, yeah, him. He died recently. He's the one that's just introducing them on SNL. But it looks great. And that's the thing, is that it's like that kind of robotic performance, like their, what do they call it, like jerky animatronic things on like rides or whatever.
Yeah.
Is great. It's just like, mate, oh God, just Devo is so fucking cool. So fucking good.
I've got a video from around this time of them performing on French TV.
I remember
and they
that
do
video.
they do like 10 songs or something, including an encore where Boogie Boy comes on, and it's in a studio, and the audience are just sitting there looking fairly bored, actually. They're not responding. And I always remember watching it with you, and there's just like, they zoom in on like one really boring, like bland, middle-aged man. And he's just like watching like Boogie Boy dispassionately. I always remember you saying like this, imagine him going home to his wife and going, "Oh my God, you will not believe the things I have seen tonight."
Yeah. That sounds right. No, I do remember that video because I remember thinking, because as well, it's got that like sheen where it's like, you know, but you've got it on like tape or something like that, haven't you? Like a fucking VHS. So it's not like pristine quality or whatever. And because it's from like French TV as well, it's just this weird kind of like Vaseline on the lens almost kind of aesthetic to it. Which makes it even more creepy when you watch that encore of him coming out in that mask. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's really good that actually. I don't know if it's online. I should rip that video and put it up.
Yeah, you should have a look.
As well, in the aftermath of the album, a couple of singles came out. So Satisfaction was released, not in the UK, but so this obviously the album version of Satisfaction. They released that in the US and some other markets. And then they did do Come Back Johnny. Like I said, there was a video for that. A really cool sleeve in the UK of a woman holding a head, like a bust, like a Greek statue.
Right.
But superimposed over that is a green potato.
Okay.
But it came with a sticker of the actual face that you could like put over it. So that's cool. With Social Fools again on the B side.
Right.
Other than that, I think the only outtake is the song Penetration in the Centerfold, which would later be released the next year as the B-side of The Day My Baby Gave Me a Surprise.
Okay.
This is a strange song, isn't it? What do you think of it?
Yeah. If I remember rightly, it's Dirty, which the song title would suggest. It's a bit like Manic, but as well, if I remember rightly, yeah, it's like quite not sludgy guitars, like it's still sharp, but it's like weird, dark, edgy sound to it. It sounds almost like violent or something. Yeah.
Weird rhythm to it. Everything about it's weird. And then just him shouting penetration for the chorus.
Yeah. I'm not particularly... It's one of those things I'll probably skip.
Yeah, likewise. It's one of those ones where, yeah, to me it stands out because of its just utter strangeness. It's not a particularly pleasant listening experience. Do you like Pussy Galore?
What?
Do you know them?
Yeah, the James Bond.
The band.
Heroin.
Featuring John Spencer. You know
I don't know anything about them.
Oh, okay. Well, they did a cover of it that's really quite cool.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I really like Pussy Galore. We should do an episode on them sometime.
Yeah, in the bank.
So anyway, I mean, that's kind of it, really. That's all the material. Maybe we should have a little nose in Nerd's Corner quickly. Here we are in Nerd Corner, taking a look at some of the most spectacular pressings and releases of the album. As we mentioned before, obviously in the UK and the US, it came out in different sleeves. In the UK, there's something like 7 or 8 different colours they put it out with. There's a big sticker on the front that kind of like said, this comes on purple, green, grey, blue, blah, 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 but not black.
Right.
But black obviously followed at some point because my copy's on black.
Okay.
The best one, in my opinion, and I would love to get hold of a copy of this, is the Canadian pressing, which was on splattered grey vinyl, which I think is quite cool because I don't often associate that kind of like novelty colour with like the era of the late 70s.
Yeah.
So I think it's quite an unusual thing. It looks great. It's really, really cool. So yeah, that's like a perennial item on my want list.
Nice.
In 1979 in the UK, again, Virgin, like squeezing every penny they could out of this, they put it out on a picture disc.
Right.
Which is quite cool, that image of Mark. And that came with, in most copies, I think, a flexi disc called Flimsy Wrap. You heard of this?
Okay. Nope.
It's the funniest thing. I've got 2 copies of Flimsy Wrap, but I don't have the picture disc.
What's that?
It's kind of like, it's weird. It's like an interview. So it's a DJ being like, oh, Devo have just played, and blah, 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 blah. And you get a little burst of noise. And then it's basically like an interview, I think. Them hyping up the band and then speaking to Mark. I think. So it's the strangest kind of thing. And basically nothing you'd really ever want to listen to.
Okay.
It's just really odd. And it comes also
weird when like bands release interviews as like a thing. Like I think like, Idlewild did it for like, I think 100 Broken Windows re-release or something. And it was like an interview with them and then a whole bunch of live sessions that they did. It's like, I don't care about the interview. Just get rid of it.
No, that's like promotional stuff. Like if you're really into a band, then it's quite cool if you get like a promo interview CD. Because you have to track it down and get it. But no one really wants to hear people being interviewed on a commercial release.
Yeah, it's weird.
It also came with a letter from the desk of General Boy.
God.
Do you remember General Boy?
No, but I'm guessing it's part of the part of the character framework that they'd built.
Yeah, it was actually their dad, like the Mother's Ball's dad.
Oh, okay.
He's great. He's in some of the films. He does these like linking segments where he's like in a big room and he's dressed up as a general. He's got like framed pictures behind him. And he does stuff like, you know, the boys are working in the bunker on their important music and every man, woman and child will soon know the truth about the evolution. And he's this really straight-laced guy and they got him to do all this stuff. It's brilliant.
Brilliant.
But yeah, it comes with this letter and it's just cool. All these little things like part of the kind of Devo manifesto.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, if you're really into the album, that's a fun little thing to track down if you can get hold of that letter and Flimsy Wrap. Anyway, that's kind of everything. Pretty exhaustive look at the album, I think. But I'm sure there's things that we missed out on. So if anyone's just listening and they've got a bit more inside detail, I'd love to hear any little scrap or nugget of information.
Yeah, all the Bowie Iggy Pop stuff interests me as well. Because, I didn't know Bowie was involved at all before coming into this.
And the reissue schedule of Bowie material since he died has been relentless. So the fact that there's a potentially a kind of like a remaster remix incorporating more Bowie elements, I'm surprised someone hasn't tried to poke around and get that released.
Yeah, be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that was good coming back to that album. I enjoyed that.
Final thoughts, statement on the album?
It's one of the few albums that had such an immediate effect. As I said, no one has sounded like Devo before or since. I guess like one little bit, which maybe is kind of follows in with Nerd's Corner, is that you guys might remember the Transformers animated movie, which is one of my favourite movies of all time.
Yeah.
And if you remember, there's a song called Dare to Be Stupid, which is actually by Weird Al Yankovic, who wrote that as a Devo song. So he tried to emulate Devo.
Yeah.
And if you listen to it, it is pure Devo nonsense. And apparently there was an interview with Mark Mothersbaugh about it at the time, saying like, how do you feel about Weird Al Yankovic doing a Devo song for the Transformers thing, whatever? And he said, it's amazing. He was like, it's a great song. We feel like, he's something. It was something like he's written a better Devo song than we could have, something like that. And when you hear it, it's just, I tell you what, let's do a Transformers album. We should do a Transformers fucking episode on the animated film anyway.
I love that movie.
I absolutely love that movie as well. And the album is one of the few soundtracks. I remember when they re-released that album on CD, whenever it was, ages ago when it came out, I think at the same time as the DVD.
Yeah.
And I had it on VHS and all this stuff, but it hadn't been out DVD by that point. I've got it 4K or something now. Fucking ridiculous. And I treasured that CD. I was like, I can't believe this thing exists because I fucking love that soundtrack. And I was so happy. And bear in mind, this was before like Spotify and all this stuff. So it's great to get hold of. Anyway, what am I talking about that? Okay, Weird Al Yankovic, yeah, Born to be Stupid. Dare to be Stupid, sorry.
Dare to be Stupid.
Yeah. Shall I put a little bit of it here now? People to listen
Why
to.
not? Yeah,
Have a
go
listen.
on.
Weird Al Yankovic, Dare to be Stupid.
Put down the chainsaw and listen to me. It's time for us to join in the fight. It's time to let your babies grow up to be cowboys. It's time to let the blood fight. You better put all your eggs in one basket.
So, yeah, it looks like we're going to be doing some Transformers music in the movie at some point. But Sam, what are we doing next week?
Next week is a game. We have moved on to the game section of the podcast, and we're going to be doing Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Because I
Sounds
completed
vicious.
it recently. So it makes it onto the list. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening again, I guess. And yeah, Dan, that was a really great chat. I enjoyed talking about a bit of Devo. What
Me
are your
too.
final thoughts?
Just brilliant album. Like you said, 9 out of 10. It's a perennial favourite of mine. Definitely like top 20 album. Loved it since I heard it. Still love it as much today. Yeah, like I said, sometimes I'm like, maybe Freedom of Choice is my favourite. It depends which way you're kind of leaning on that day, really.
Yeah.
I think this is a bit weirder. And usually for me, the weirder the better.
Yeah, I would say it's a bit more punky. Maybe why I like it more.
Yeah.
Cool. Guess that's it.
That's
See ya.
it. Bye, Odd Squad.
Hey guys, thank you for listening to Oddcast Movies, Music and Gaming. If you want to get in touch with us or get a movie, album or game put on our list to discuss, then email us at oddcastoddballs@gmail.com or a newwinterpodcast@gmail.com. This is part of a New Winter Podcast network, so head on over to anewwinter.net to check out our other shows. You can also follow us on Instagram at A New Winter, Twitter at A New Winter, and you can head on over to our Patreon page, patreon.com/A New Winter. Thanks for listening and see you again soon.